What's going on? Alby with Alby Gonzalez Fitness, and you've seen the title of the video, you know why you're here. The only 3 ab exercises you need for a ripped six-pack, brother. So let's jump right into the video. So abs are built with resistance and gradual progression, just like any other muscle. And like other muscles, removing the unwanted fat that covers them up is what allows them to show. If you can manage the progress in the gym with heavy compound lifts that require stabilization of the spine, such as squats, deadlifts, another thing is could be bench press and other compound lifts also as well, while performing exercises that allow you to flex and extend the spine with resistance, like cable crunches, for example. Another one is leg lifts. You will build your abs. Combine that with a slight deficit of calories and some consistency, and that's a recipe for more visible abs. Now, before we jump into this diagram, I just want to mention, so you always hear people say, oh, abs are made in the kitchen, you don't have to train them directly. Oh, you shouldn't train them directly, that doesn't work. If you do compound lifts, you're fine, you don't have to do abs. No, that is not wrong information. It's just not 100% correct, because in reality, if you really want to have a strong core and you're able to see your abs visibly, you have to be doing all 3. Like I mentioned here, you have to be doing compound lifts, right? That's what's going to strengthen your core. You have to be training them directly because you want to put more stress on that muscle to build it stronger. And you have to drop body fat, because dropping the body fat is what's going to allow you to see that muscle a lot better. Just like any muscle in the body, the bigger and stronger the muscle is, the better it's going to look when you drop body fat. That's just how it is, okay? So it's the same thing. There's nothing special about abs, okay? Regardless of what people say, oh, you just eat right and you'll get abs. Yeah. If you don't have a strong core or big abs, big strong abs, yeah, you're going to have to get a lot leaner, right? Because the muscle is a lot smaller, but the bigger and stronger the muscle is, the less leaner you have to get. But it's a combination of all 3. So let's go ahead and talk about the diagram here. So these are the 4 parts of the core. We also have the lower back, but we're not going to talk about the lower back in this video. We're just going to focus on the abdominals. So we have the transverse abdominals, external obliques, and rectus abdominals. Let's talk about those. So each of these 4 muscles has a different yet important role to play. So you want to make sure that your workouts train all of them effectively. Together, these muscles will impact your core stability, strength, your posture, in addition to providing many other important functions. It's very important to have a strong core, especially if you're doing some type of sport, or even as you get older. You always hear people say, well, my back, I have lower back issues. Like, that can happen from being overweight, but it can also happen from having a weak core. Having a strong core is also going to help you with compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, bench press, overhead press, bent over rows. These are exercises that are going to be able to put more muscle on your body that's going to keep you a lot leaner. So your core is extremely important. If you can see here, it's kind of like a belt that comes around your body, right? It connects from here to your lower back. It keeps you nice and steady. So it's very important to train your core. So let's jump into the first one here, and it's the rectus abdominis, right? So when people generally think of a six-pack, this is the muscle that they're talking about. The rectus abdominis is positioned between the ribs and the pubic bone and the front of the pelvis, and is actually made up of 8 distinct muscle bellies. So you can see here, it looks like an 8-pack here, but most people can never show all 8. There are some people with good genetics, good muscle bellies, good insertions, good origins, that you'll be able to see all 8 when they get extremely shredded. But for most people, you'll have a 6-pack, and then down here where you see the 2 remainder, it will just be flat with veins and stuff if you're super shredded. Alright, so the rectus abdominis is positioned, okay, we read that. When the muscle contracts, these muscle bellies are visible, assuming low enough levels of body fat, creating the 6-pack look. Like I mentioned before, you can have a strong core, from compound lifts, from training directly, but if your body fat is not low enough, and everybody's genetics are different, you're just not going to be able to see them. All because you don't see a 6-pack on somebody does not mean that their core is not strong. I'm sure there are plenty of football players, plenty of wrestlers, big, strong men who have probably extremely strong cores, thick abs, but you just can't see it because, they're probably in that 15-16% body fat range. So, and on the flip side, somebody can have a six-pack, you can see it, but that doesn't mean they have a strong core. They can have an extremely weak core. You give them one good body shot and they drop like a sack of potatoes. The rectus abdominis is absolutely essential for maintaining good posture, and it is primarily responsible for flexing the lumbar spine of movement of sit-up or a crunch. This muscle can be worked out in two different ways. Either bringing the chest towards your pelvis, so you're crunching, you're bringing your chest towards your pelvis, or bringing your pelvis towards your chest. So you're bringing your pelvis towards your chest. Now, one mistake I see a lot of people when they're doing leg lifts, when they're trying to work their abs, is they use a lot of their legs. They use a lot of swinging. That is not the movement for abs. You see, and I see it a lot in CrossFit, and I don't know too much about CrossFit, so I'm assuming that that's just how they do that exercise. But if you're trying to build your core, it's a controlled motion, because remember, the goal is to get a crunch, right? A contraction and then a stretch. That's how you're going to build the muscle. So you want to make sure you're bringing your pelvis towards your chest when you're doing your leg lifts. So now we're going to get into the external obliques. As you can see here, here's the belly button here. This is where the rectus abdominis is, and then you have the obliques right here, which are the side. Now these two are the ones that I'm highlighting first, because these are the main two muscles that everybody always talks about when we're training. When you say I'm training abs, you're either I'm training my obliques or I'm training my abs, which is the rectus abdominis. So let's talk about the obliques here a little bit and see why they're so important. After the rectus abdominis, the obliques are probably one of the other abdominal muscles that many people focus on. However, what you may not know is that there are actually two distinct sets of oblique muscles. Your internal obliques, which are the ones that you can see, and then you have your internal obliques, which are inside. I'll discuss these. We're going to get into that later. So your external obliques sit on either side of your rectus abdominis, so like I show here, right on the side right here, abdominis, and are actually the largest of your abdominal muscles. This is the muscle that allows the trunk of your body to twist. This is controlled by the external oblique muscle of the opposite side of the direction you're twisting. For instance, if you're twisting to your left, you are using your right. The external oblique also helps with your overall posture, pulling your chest downwards, and protecting your organs by creating an intra-abdominal pressure. So having strong obliques is gonna protect your organ. It's gonna make you a lot stronger, especially if you're doing like something like MMA or wrestling or jiu-jitsu or football, where you're taking body shots. That is gonna help you absorb a lot of those shots. It's also gonna protect your organs. If you get hit, you don't want any kidney or liver failure. That's going to protect it from that. Even in car crashes. I remember I had a friend who got into a car crash, and the reason that he was able to get out of that accident as well as he did, they said, was because of the amount of muscle mass that he had, because it protected a lot of his organs. If he didn't work out and he didn't have the amount of muscle that he had, he could have been in a lot worse shape than he came out. So the next one is internal obliques. This is the one that I mentioned. It's inside, right underneath the external. Now you can think of this muscle as kind of being the opposite of the external oblique. They are located directly below the rectus abdominis, and it sits just inside your hip bone. The internal obliques are also responsible for twisting and turning, but they control the other side of the movement. For example, when you twist to the right, you are contracting both of your right internal oblique and your left external oblique at the same time, so they work together. Since they control the movement at the same time with your body, internal obliques are sometimes referred to as the same side rotators. That's an important key thing to understand, is because when you're training your obliques, you're also training your internal obliques, okay? So there's no need to try to individually do these, all right? When you're doing one, you're most likely going to be doing the other because they work together. And then the last one here is the transverse abdominals. This is something you probably never hear. In my experience, the vast majority of people have never heard of this muscle. I mean, you've probably never heard of anyone at the gym saying, we're working out on their transverse abdominals today. No, never heard that. Still in this very important muscle, which is integral to holding your entire abdominal structure together. The transverse abdominals is the deepest of your ab muscles located underneath your rectus abdominis and obliques. So think about it as a car, right? You have the hood, which is what you can see. You obviously need a strong hood, right, in case of an impact. And then beneath the hood, as you go deeper, you start looking into different parts of the vehicle, right? So this is like the engine block. You know, you want to keep those things nice and protected with these things here. But like I mentioned earlier, these muscles like don't really bust your head over it like, oh, I gotta train this. It's like, no, when you're doing things like crunches and leg lifts and you're doing them correctly, chest to pelvis, pelvis to chest, you know, side bends, you are going to be training all four parts of your abdominals. So let's talk about the core here. Basically, you can think of these abdominal muscles that we've discussed coming together to form your core, in addition to some muscles in your lower back. But we'll discuss that in another video. Like I mentioned, core strength is becoming increasingly emphasized as a fundamental component of any good fitness program. Without a strong core, you simply don't have the stable structure required to train the rest of the body effectively. So like I mentioned, you know, your core is what keeps you nice and tight and everything. If you have a strong core, you're going to be able to perform your compound lifts a lot better, less risk of injury. Any sport you do, it's going to require you to have a strong core. So your core is something you should never neglect. So let's talk about the exercises here. Like I mentioned here, we have the hanging leg raises and the hanging knee raises. This exercise is very good because you're working all four parts of your abdominals. You can also start lifting on your side to hit a little bit more obliques there. You can also twist to also use more of your obliques. Keep in mind, when you're bringing your legs up, you're not necessarily focusing on bringing your feet up and jerking. You're focusing on bringing your pelvis towards your chest. That is what you're trying to do, because that's when you're using your abdominals, not swinging and using your legs. Exercise number 2, cable crunches. Again, same idea here, is you're working all parts of the abdominals, and again, by turning which way you go, you can go to side to hit more of obliques. But the goal is you want to bring your chest to your pelvis. That is where you're going to get that contraction, and then as you extend, that's where you're going to get the extension there. And then one of my personal favorites is the decline crunch. This one I find to be less strenuous on your back because you are in a decline position than when you're just flat doing crunches. You know, I find that to be a little bit harder on my neck, so I don't like that. I kind of like to stretch all the way back on the decline. That way my abs are nice and flat and stretched out, and then I can get, again, you don't want to be lifting your lower back to come up. I see people doing that all the time. They come all the way up, knees touching the elbows, they're using their lower back coming up. That's not the movement. The movement is the chest towards the pelvic. Okay, that's the movement, or the pelvic towards the chest. That's how you're going to get that contraction. That's how you're going to build your abs. Anything else is you're just overdoing it, and you're taking away the stress from the muscle you're trying to work on. So let's talk about a quick workout here. 30 to 60 second rest in between sets, 1 minute rest between exercises. You're going to do 3 sets of 15 on hanging leg raises or hanging knee raises, or a combination of both. You get to choose. 3 sets of 20 cable crunches and 4 sets of 25 of decline crunch. This little workout right here is probably all you need for your abdominals, because keep in mind, if you're doing your compound lifts, you're already training them. But if you want to get them even stronger, you want to add these. I would also probably some lower back extension and some planks for your lower back to build that nice solid core. All right. Well, guys, I hope you found this video informative. I hope this helps you on your path to getting that six-pack and that strong core that we all want. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, it really helps a lot. Hit the notification button so you don't miss any of my new material. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for the support, and peace out.